Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with JC Granger of Infinity Marketing Group. They specialize in the B2B tech industry. You can find them at infinitymgroup.com. JC has 20 years in the digital marketing experience, and he has owned his agency since 2011. He's ranked third in the nation in rock, paper, scissors, and you can choose to believe that or not. We're going to be talking about how to specialize in the B2B tech industry. We are going to be talking about how to get fast results with you and your business. JC, glad to be talking to you.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
So what has been your focus lately? What has been your passion? And where do you think that you stand out amongst all that?
Well, our focus lately, with all this COVID craziness going on, has been really focused on the more immediate lead gen side for companies. As a marketing agency and someone who's been doing it so long, I typically focus on the long-term values, right? Infrastructure, branding, things like that, so that a company will survive long-term. But right now, a lot of companies are in panic mode. And so, as much as they want to be able to do long-term things right now, they need the leads right now. So we're really focusing on the parts of our company and service offerings that are more immediate results to help get people through this time until we can come out on the other end.
Well, fantastic. And what kinds of immediate results are we talking about? Because when you say things like lead gen, that can mean a lot of different things, right? You could think of scraping or going back to your old customer list or setting up an opt-in. When you say lead gen, what does that mean for you, and what are these immediate results?
Yeah. So for us, we mostly concentrate, like you said, in the B2B tech space. So for B2B companies, more immediate lead gen is really focusing on the direct outreach and funnel through LinkedIn. Right. So making sure that your salespeople or yourself, depending if you're a smaller company, are reaching out to the properly targeted people on LinkedIn and drumming up those direct one-on-one conversations. We have a done for you service that we do the whole thing for them. But we're really focusing on things like that for B2B, really engaging more in that direct one-on-one immediate response, yes, no kind of thing, right? Either not interested or interested, either move on or set up a call kind of thing, because that's the things that company needs right now, because the long-term plan stuff, although it's obviously very beneficial, it's very hard to convince them to spend that money to do that. And, and I get it, right? Right now things are more immediate need based.
Okay, great. And I do LinkedIn every now and then, but I know that there are guys like you, agencies like you, that really have that LinkedIn marketing really dialed in. They have the special plan where they have the sales navigator, and they spend all day on LinkedIn, and they're so great at it. And so for someone like me who's maybe from the outside looking in, what's this process like? So like you mentioned there that you do like messaging and do a yes no and get on a call, and I imagine that you have kind of an ideal like search query. So say like one of your LinkedIn outreach salespeople, they sit down at the desk, they go to work that day. What's kind of the steps in that LinkedIn funnel there?
No, that's actually a great question. So we kind of built out a monster. I'll tell you what we built out, and then I'll give advice to whoever's listening as far as what they can do on their own if they don't have the ability to hire someone to do the whole thing for them. But what we built out essentially is we'll go through your profile, like yours, for example. Let's say you wanted, more podcast guests or whatnot in some industry. So we go through your profile and we would use your sales navigator to come down with a laser targeted demographic, right? By industry, company size, job titles, geography, you name it, right? We'd send out probably about 40 to 50 invites to these people to connect every single day, 7 days a week. So it comes out to about 1,200 to 1,600 or so per month, give or take, right? And that's a lot. Anywhere between 20 to 40% of those people will accept fairly in the near term. So you're adding another, 500-600 people a month kind of thing to your connection base. At that point, you put them into a drip series on LinkedIn that is not really salesy. It's more authority building, more rapport building. So helpful tips and tricks, a video that either you created that you found that's helpful to them, articles and blogs, things like that, right? Maybe asking them if they want to follow your company page. Where the sales part comes in is then we then take that information, we tap it into your CRM so that you get to keep that information, first name, last name, email, company, industry, phone number from that new connection. So you have that over there in case you're doing any other kind of marketing like your newsletters or whatever. But then what we do is we also take that information and tap it into a drip series in direct email one-on-one. So for example, let's say you use Gmail as your business email base, or Outlook, or whatever, it doesn't matter. It would tap in and send that person an email. So it might say something along the lines of, hey, John, just connected with you on LinkedIn yesterday, but I don't check it all that much. So I thought I'd shoot you a quick email, though, and say, hi, anyway, here's a little bit about my company and what we do and how I think it can help you. If you want to jump on the phone sometime this week, let me know. Here's a link to my calendar, something like that. But of course, then it would be, 4 or 5 more emails that go out if they don't reply. And the last thing that we did for building out this legitimate like lead gen monster is we added in a manual process as well, because everything I described to you is fairly automated but customized to the client. All the messaging is customized to them and things like that. But what we also realize is that that's so much volume, it can really overwhelm someone. So what we do is then we will read the replies and reply back to those people based on their replies and based on a document that we create with the client that is essentially a reply scenario document. Because most replies come within 3 categories, right? Not interested, interested, and a dead end message like thanks or thumbs up or something. And it's easy to say, hey, just keep pushing that conversation forward. But even salespeople don't do that every single time. So we do that every single time. The point being is that at the end of the day, it's a done for you service where we will quite literally only hand you the leads that are ready to talk now, not MQLs, not marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, SQLs. I tell people that the analogy is, how you say you can lead a horse to water, can't make them drink. Well, we will lead the horse to water, and we will put its head down to the water. We will touch its lips to the water. And then all you have to do is make it apply suction. Like, that's it, right? So we really tee it up really well for clients. Now, if you can hire an agency like ours to do it, or another one. If you're doing it yourself, I highly recommend, sitting there and blocking off time during your day, maybe 2 1-hour blocks a day where you're just reaching out to those people. Maybe keep a spreadsheet of this information. It is a more manual task. It takes longer, but you can really, really gain a lot of one-on-one. Make sure you're downloading the Sales Navigator app to your phone, right? Or your LinkedIn app, so you can reply, on the fly from your phone. So LinkedIn right now is very powerful for B2B. It's going to work quickly, and that's what businesses need right now.
Well, fantastic. Well, like as I said, whenever I talk to these LinkedIn guys such as yourself, my brain list explodes with all the possibilities, right? And even like hearing your thought process of 40 to 50 leads and talk to them and do some of the automated stuff and hook it up with your CRM and then figure out what some of the replies are. And it's like semi-automated, right? There's some drip and there's some looking at the replies. And I just, every time I have one of these conversations with guys like you that talk about the CRM and the funnel, I just think like everyone needs to be doing this, right? And like you said, at the very least, carving out some time during the day, that way they can at least see the value, or they know, okay, well, say if me going slow and not using software puts in an hour and I get X number of leads back and I know that it's worth this amount, then they can see the value in really scaling and ramping it up with your guys and your process and your team. And some of these people that come to me on LinkedIn, they really have it dialed in. Like sometimes I'll get, like you said, they'll reach out to me outside of LinkedIn or they'll do some other research. And I'm really impressed when they sometimes will shoot a quick video and they'll send a quick video to me, and it's simple. It's something anyone can do. 30 seconds, 60 seconds, something where it's just something personal about me that's customized, so it's clear that they didn't just record it once and spam it out to everyone. Does your team do anything like that, or does that kind of thing, like that sort of outside the box thinking like interest you or excite you, or is that just part of your process?
Well, I really love anytime you can personalize something more to do it, right? So here's the thing too, is when it comes to, even though like half of our service for that particular thing is automated, it's very token based, which means that we pull information from a profile to make sure that it is personalized, right? So we do use their first name. We can use their job title, their city, their company name in these messages. So it really does have that very personal feel, even though it is more on an automated process. And then even though, again, that's only the first half, the second half is very manual. We really do engage with these people for the client. But to answer your question about the personalized video, nobody could really do that other than the client themselves. If the client has the time to do more account-based marketing where, let's say they had a hit list of 10 companies they really, really want their business. We would advise them and say, listen, we're going to do all these things on our end, but what would be really great is if you could record 10 30-second videos, right? Uh, for one for each of these people, give it to us, and then we will include that. Like, you give us that material, and we will get that into the process. I would never want another company of any kind making a personalized video on my behalf when I'm trying to make a personal connection. So that's the one thing that, yes, I think that's a great idea. We would absolutely advise a client to do that, but I think that's something that they should do on their own. But again, you have to be more targeted. You don't want to sit there and spend your whole day making these videos for just any company. Sit down, have a real hit list. Like, if you could pick 10 companies today that you would love to have their business, realistically, of course, making sure that you are a company that can handle the size of business. You can't say I want Coca-Cola unless you are, in fact, a company that specializes in Fortune 500s, right? So be very realistic and then get your hit list, and then you can start tailoring little pieces of content just for them. And then either you do that yourself and get it out to them, or you give that to the agency you're working with and they will get it out to those channels for you.
That's really good advice there, that it's important to do that personal stuff with someone that you can actually land and someone that's the right fit for you, right? And that's I think some of us fall into that trap sometimes of thinking, okay, I need to record 1,000 videos, right? Or I need to target everyone. And what I'm hearing a lot from you and your thought process is your team funnels everyone down so that you have those SQLs, right? Those sales qualified leads. So you're talking to people that are like so close to whatever the transaction is, right? So close to signing up with you or signing with you or whatever. So that way you're not just wasting your time on kind of that, however you would abstract it, like that lower bottom level of the funnel where they don't quite know you yet. And this is always super cool to think about, because as you said, this can kind of apply to anyone, right? It can apply to someone getting podcast guests, someone getting coaching clients. And we mentioned earlier that you were big in like the B2B tech industry, and something that impresses me with some of these software guys is that they will do some of this kind of one-on-one marketing and lead up to a software demo, right? Which pays off for them, especially if there's like a multi-license situation or a monthly situation. Do you do any of that, or do you have anything to share? Because I always find that kind of interesting, right? Of getting these calls scheduled, not necessarily sales calls, but kind of like screen share demos where this client can see the software in action. And I mean, that is like, how do you get any more customized than that? So yeah, demos.
Well, I'll tell you this, and this answer might be not what you're expecting, but I actually recommend that companies listen. If you obviously have to have salespeople who do demos, right? Some people are going to want you to walk them through it. That person is about as low on that sales funnel as you can get. They are this close to buying, as long as what you walk them through matches their needs. That being said, I think too many software companies focus too much on only trying to show this software in a demo format, because most people, to be honest, their time is so valuable and they don't know you yet. So they're like, great, I'm gonna get stuck on this demo. And if I don't like it, most people won't stop someone halfway through the demo and just say, okay, please stop, I'm done, right? So they know that if they schedule a half hour, an hour demo, they're in it for that amount of time, whether they like it or not. So that's actually something that most people, that's why it's harder to get demos sometimes, because you really are asking a lot from someone, because their time is very valuable, especially now with COVID going on, right? People, if you're working at all right now to save your business, you are working 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week, just trying to keep the boat afloat, right? So what I recommend to software companies actually is to really build out your content or your demo library on your website. So, whatever demo you would do with someone, do that without someone. Go through every single aspect of your software. Now, that might be an hour's worth of video. Now, you're not going to upload an hour-long video, right? Well, all right, let me take it back. You will for someone who wants to watch the whole thing through. But the real goal after this hour-long video is to actually cut it down into like 15 to a second to 2-minute clips for each individual part. Because what a lot of people don't realize when, especially software companies for B2B, when you're doing enterprise software, most people who are buying your software are only looking to solve 1 to 3 problems, but your software has 20 features. So realistically, they don't care about the other 17 because what they're really looking for is this and this. And so if you build out a good video library on your website, that it can have your full long video at the top, but then if it splits out by section and feature only, what it allows the person to do is go scan for which feature that they're really looking for that really helps them, and then they can watch that one part. It's basically think of it like a trailer to a movie, right? Movie trailers are brilliant if you think about it, because they're only taking the best parts of the movie and the parts that they know that their demographic wants to see first to convince them to spend their time and money sitting as a captive audience for 2 hours, right? With overpriced popcorn and soda. Like, that's a big commitment. If you think about it, well, how do you convince someone to give you that much money and time? You convince them by giving them the best pieces in advance. So I highly recommend that, yes, you do the full demo so that if somebody does want to sit there and watch the whole thing by themselves, they can. But that you also splice it into the individual service offerings and pieces so that someone can scan for what they're really looking for. And when you have that, what's really nice is that you can put those little videos into a drip series that will help convince the person now to get on the live demo. We all agree that getting on the live demo is best, obviously, but you can't, it's hard to expect someone to want to dedicate that time in advance when they don't know you or your software that well yet. So I recommend pre-recording a lot of stuff and putting those in your marketing drip campaigns so that once that person sees that one part they really like, now they really want to demo with you because they want to see more and see how it all worked to solve their problem.
Yeah, and that's fantastic advice. And you're making me think back to any time that I'm looking to grab a software library, or maybe say I'm using like this scheduling, like online scheduler platform, and I'm looking at that. Like you said, I'm looking for a handful of features. Usually I'm doing like a Google search or a YouTube search. I'm searching, does this platform integrate with Gmail, right?
Yep.
Or what does it look like when this integrates with LinkedIn? And I'll find the YouTube video and I'll just skip to, okay, what does the screen look like? Does it have the button I'm expecting, or is it as awkward as the existing solution is? You're so
Yeah.
right that we're not looking for the whole rigmarole. We're just looking for those couple of features. And since we are on the subject right now of the mistakes, or maybe the things that people focus too much on and not enough of the others, I'm sure you've seen your share of other people doing what you do, like say competitors doing it incorrectly, right? I'm sure that you do a lot of things that a lot of people don't do well. So I mean, what kind of mistakes do you see these days that just really tick you off?
It's funny actually. And I don't know if you know this actually. I think your question just has to be more coincidental. But I just got done writing a guide called "The Top Five Mistakes People Make When Prospecting on LinkedIn." And so things that I see that are just egregious in so many ways. For one, like they won't personalize something, right? I had a guy who tried to connect with me on LinkedIn the other day, and he said, "Hi, Granger." And so I replied back to him. I said, "Hey, you got to change your token to first name, not last name, on your automated software." I said, "If you want some consult on how to do it right, let me know." Right. So,
Nice.
paying attention to those details and making sure that, listen, if you're going to automate something, that's fine, but make sure that it's personalized and that you're doing the correct personalization as well. So I see those mistakes a lot. I also see that people right now, especially with this virus going on, I think my biggest concern right now is that so many companies are pulling back. They're over pulling back. They're cutting the wrong budgets. You know, you never cut your marketing budget if you can avoid it. And I mean, it should be the last thing. And unfortunately, it's like the first thing that people cut. I'm not saying that because I'm a marketing agency and like, oh, hire me. Listen, whoever's listening can throw a rock from where they're standing and hit a marketing agency. Okay, you've got a lot of options. The point being is that, if you're cutting marketing, you're basically giving yourself the death sentence no matter what. You're just prolonging it, right? You just put yourself on death row. You didn't get yourself out of the execution, right? And so, and I know that can be hard for some people to hear because they think, well, what else do you want me to do? Do you want to? I can't cut this. I don't want to fire these people. And I'm not telling anyone to fire people. What I'm saying is take a real strong look at where you're really putting your money and understand that, you have to survive. And the only way to survive is to make sure that you're still having inbound, because if your client base is starting to go away one by one because they're going under, the only way to survive that is to be able to continue to bring some in. Right now, if you want to scale maybe back your marketing budget a little bit because you were putting it into some experimental areas, well, okay, that's fine. Don't experiment right now. Go with what you know what will work. But people who are cutting their marketing budget completely, I just kind of shake my head. I'm like, it's a death sentence. I'm watching it in slow motion. And I know this because we went through the recession. I remember watching this happen at, 08, 09, and it went into 2010 too. And it was really hard to watch because the companies that did that, they did eventually die. They just died a death of 1,000 cuts. My advice is to double down, not to hunker down. And again, I'm not saying that you can pull money from thin air, but these are times where you got to get creative. Sometimes, yeah, you got to furlough someone or cut someone and use their salary to combine two jobs into one. Maybe one other person now gets overworked for a little bit, right? This is a temporary thing we're going through. It won't be forever, but you're going to have to make some really, really hard decisions. But one of the things I encourage every company listening is that if you're in any way, shape, or form able to keep any valid amount in your marketing budget, you have to do it, because otherwise your pipeline's going to dry up completely. And even if you get through a certain amount of time by conserving, you're eventually going to run out of money. It's just math. It's not an opinion. And I get that it's hard, right? I mean, I've gone through this before. Like I said, we started around the recession. It's like, I get it. If you're going under completely and there's nothing you can do, then that is terrible. And I hope that things get better much sooner for you and for everyone else. But if you have any breath of life left, you got to keep doubling down on your marketing, because two things. One, there's a lot of market share out there to get because so many companies are going under in every industry. The ones that are able to go and be aggressive and attack, they're going to gobble up more market share than they ever had the ability to get when times were good, right? Because it was too watered down. And secondly, showing that you're still marketing shows strength. It shows validity. It shows authority in your industry, right? When you see ads pop up on YouTube or something, or even just on Hulu or whatever you're watching, any ads that show up anywhere, any kind of marketing you're getting, your first thought is, well, they're still around, so they must be doing okay, right? Like, that's an unconscious thought that happens in the human brain. And that's huge right now because people are looking for safety and stability. And if they're going to hire a company to do something for them, they want to know that that company won't be out of business in 60 days. And if they're advertising and marketing, that goes a long way when it comes to building that kind of trust. So again, I know it's a hard decision, and there's some people listening who aren't going to have any options at all. And my advice isn't going to work. But for the ones that have even a little bit of daylight in front of them, I highly encourage them to double down on their marketing. Be smart about it. Don't experiment. Don't do long-term stuff. Like, for example, if you're in an industry that is capable of doing paid ads. So for example, if you're not in a restricted industry, like, CBD or marijuana, for example, right? Or you're not highly restricted, like a lawyer, or things like that. If you're any other industry than those, definitely don't do SEO right now. SEO is a long-term play. Unless you already have an SEO strategy that's working great and it's bringing you a lot of leads, that's fine. But if you were thinking of starting SEO as a way to get out of this, don't. Because that's a long-term play, and that's going to take 8-9 months. You don't have that time. Put that money into paid ads. Put that money into direct, like LinkedIn lead gen. Put that money into any email marketing is another one. But specifically, if you want to purchase a list and then clean it up through a third party and then get it into your system, because emails get replies right away. So those are fast-acting, quick result things to do. LinkedIn lead gen, outreach, email marketing, and paid advertising are going to be your fastest results. And if you can afford any of those or all three, do them.
Fantastic. You're making a lot of sense here. You're saying don't give up. You're saying don't experiment. And what we've been talking about today, using LinkedIn especially to find these leads, to have these conversations, that's one of the most old school proven things that there is, right? And I don't know about you, but I've seen some of these businesses start to run these weird Facebook ads. I've seen restaurants and hotels and places like that just suddenly out of nowhere. I've never seen Facebook ads from these people suddenly running Facebook ads, which, as you said, like, that's a fine thing to do, but it leaves me a little puzzled because I'm wondering if they're doing it out of desperation. I'm wondering how many months and how much of an ad budget it would take to get dialed in. And if things are that bad, if you're that desperate, it makes a lot more sense to try to get some of these deals, try to get some of these one-on-one conversations through LinkedIn prospecting instead of just blasting through all of Facebook. I mean, I was seeing some Facebook ads from some companies like in another state or like the opposite side of the state, and I'm thinking they're just blasting to see whatever they hoping to get the attention of just whoever, and it makes a lot more sense when, if anyone has ever gone to that LinkedIn search and seen how dialed in you can get as far as like location and job title and salary and all these crazy dialed in fields. It makes a lot of sense, and it also makes sense to for people at least to try this out on their own, or even better, use you and your team at least for a short-term basis to see what kind of results come back. And as far as the amount of like time this takes, or like the pricing, is it a completely custom offer, or is there some kind of ballpark as far as like what people can expect as far as like the budget or the time commitment for working with you and your team?
Oh, well, yeah, if we're working with us, a lot of things we do are custom. When it comes to like the LinkedIn B2B lead gen that I was talking about, when it comes to that kind of monster of a system where we have, the invites, the drip series on LinkedIn, the CRM integration, and the drip series on email, depending on like commitment term, and that's anywhere between like 1,200 to 1,500 a month or so, give or take. But again, we usually work with companies that they're not selling toothpicks, right? They're selling big deals, 50,000, 100,000, $1 million deals. So their ROI very much rationalizes what we're doing for them. If you're a smaller company, doing B2C, you have to take a different approach sometimes, obviously, right? But in general, I think that for B2B companies, if you're spending around, especially for tech, if you're spending around $5,000 a month in general, no matter who it's with and how you split it up, that keeps you competitive, right? If you're spending less than that, that's when you start going over the focus things, right? So for example, I usually recommend that like a B2B tech company spend at least $5,000 a month in their marketing regardless, right? Half of that goes to ads, paid budget. The other half goes to supporting things like social media, SEO, content, video, things like that, right? If you don't have $5,000 a month and you are sitting around that under 2,000 a mark, that's where things like our LinkedIn lead gen system, for example, become really beneficial because it is way more cost effective. It works very fast, and it can get you the ROI you need immediately to then reinvest and up your game, right? But going back to what you were saying too about seeing those ads, I've seen that too, and I think it's important for people not to panic and just try to do a shotgun approach. You do still need to have a strategy to this. Otherwise, you're just blowing the budget completely. If you have an email list, a little tip is if you are B2C, take your email list. Let's say it's 4,000 or 5,000 people, upload that into Facebook as a targeting list. It is extremely cheap to run retargeting ads to a small audience like 4,000 or 5,000 people, right? That might cost you like a couple $100 a month, right? It's nothing really. And why that's important is because you're showing ads to people that already know who you are anyway, because they're on your email list, right? So that's a nice cheap way to try to effectively get targeted ads in front of someone on the B2C side. If you're on B2B, you can also do that. You can target with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a little more expensive, but again, if you're B2B, what you're selling is more expensive as well. So it's all proportional.
Okay, well, I think if we kept this conversation going for much longer, I think our minds would be completely blown because there are so many good ideas. There are so many things that we all need to and should be doing, regardless of the size of our business, right? Like you've been saying that a lot of what we've been talking about today really applies in the context of like a huge B2B, but also it still translates in a lot of ways to the B2C. So no matter who is listening or watching today, look into LinkedIn, look into not cutting your marketing budget, and look into doing and like just being more smart about it, and don't just give up like you see a few other businesses do. Be the business that survives the recession. This topic has come up a lot more recently, as you're well aware, with the virus, and this topic of every decade or every few years there's some kind of recession, and a lot of businesses come out of a recession, right? Like a lot of businesses find their time to shine during a recession. That's how Uber and Airbnb and all these companies just came out of nowhere, because they were doing something new. And maybe the ones that did not survive, they'd been doing the same old thing year after year just because it worked. And then when things had a little bit of a shift, and they just gave up. And now it's the time to decide, well, do you want to be that company that gives up, or do you want to maybe think about things a little more strategically? As you said, maybe people had to combine jobs or lay off some workers, and there might be that ad budget still around. So it makes a lot of sense to apply that ad budget in a smart way and not just shotgun blast it. And so with all the crazy, cool, and useful ideas that we've discussed today, where can and where should people go to begin to implement to make sense of these? About as far as like your website, do you have free resources, a place to sign up, a place to contact you and schedule a call? Where should people be going after our conversation today?
Oh, sure. Yeah. If they want to talk about how we can help them, the first thing, go into our website, infinitymgroup.com. There's buttons everywhere to schedule a call. That's usually the best way. I like to jump on the phone and really get a good idea of what the client's, real problem is and how we can help customize a solution for it. It also tells me if we're not the right fit. And I have a lot of agency owner friends. I literally even keep a spreadsheet of all my agency owner friends and what they specialize in. And if I think that we're not the best fit, I'll send a warm referral of that person to them. Excuse me. So, because we're all in this together, right? We really have to make sure that we take care of each other. So if we're not the best fit, I will make sure I find a good home for them. But going to my website is pretty much the easiest way, or they can email me, or the company, I should say, at info@infinitymgroup.com. Or they can call our main line if they want to talk to someone, 303-834-7344.
And you mentioned earlier that you had written a 5 tips sort of free guide.
Yeah, it's still being formatted, which is why I was like, wait, did you know about this somehow? Because I didn't know if my assistant talked to you or not.
No.
It's done being written, and we just have to format it, graphically and whatnot. So we'll be putting that on our LinkedIn. So if you go to our website, infinitymgroup.com, and you scroll about halfway down the page, there's a whole list of our services in the middle. And if you clicked on the LinkedIn one, it goes to LinkedIn page. We're going to be uploading that soon here to that page where you can get it for free. It goes over the top 5 mistakes that I've seen people use on LinkedIn when prospecting and how to fix them, right? So not just here's what you're doing wrong, but like here's how to do it right also. That'll just be a free download that they can grab on there. And I think that should be really helpful to them. And then again, if they want to talk to us, they can schedule a call or email us or whatnot.
Fantastic. And to recap those URLs, that is infinitymgroup.com. The email address is info@infinitymgroup.com. And when you go to that website, make sure you find that LinkedIn icon and add them on LinkedIn so you can see where that for your report is there. And I'll see if I wrote down the phone number correctly. Correct me if I get this wrong here. 303-834-7344. Did we get that right?
Absolutely. And before we go,
Perfect.
We have to do a best of 3 rock, paper, scissors, right?
Oh, okay. So
Right.
let's
Here
do
we
it.
go, right. 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Three.
All right, here we go. That was both scissors. All right, 1,
All right.
2, 3, shoot. All right, he got me.
So
all right, that's
I got
one.
you.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, shoot. There's a delay. Like this delay is scary. You win.
Okay, perfect. I must be that good.
I didn't even realize there was such a video delay. I was like, he's either cheating or there's a video delay. But I'm gonna say there's a video delay. I'd say you beat me straight up.
But yeah,
Awesome.
that's you need like to synchronize the timestamps, or
Yeah.
there you go. You're in B2B software. Get some software platform made
I know,
so that
right?
the timestamps prevent cheating for rock paper scissors. Yes,
Absolutely.
I think you're onto something. Well, fantastic. Well, it's been great talking to you, and everyone can and should go to infinitymgroup.com, and we'll see you there, and we'll see you around, JC.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.